I'm definitely towards Errol. I just feel like Errol, even though we haven't seen him in what 3 years now, I think he still has more than enough to beat Tim. Yeah, I know you heard everything I said, so
I told him to his face.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's cool and it's okay. Like, hey, you're a great fighter, but I think he's gonna win.
But shout out to Earl for stepping in and saying, nope, I don't want no easy bag. I want a real fighter. So he's taking on a guy who's been active. I mean, once again, if he beats Tim Tszyu,
Tim Tszyu versus Errol Spence is being talked about as a possible one-sided beatdown, but not in the way some fans think, because most experts are leaning towards Spence being the one who controls and dominates the fight.
Spence being the one who controls and dominates the fight.
Errol Spence is a boxing brother to me. He's somebody that I have a lot of respect for, his fight game, how he approached the fights, and just how he's carried himself. And again, he's made mistakes and he's open about that because he's a very, very solid man. He's just a solid guy, right? And he's got morals, he's got principles.
Spence knows how to apply pressure without rushing, attack the body control distance, and slowly break fighters down round after round, because he is not just a big name, he is a former unified champion with experience at the highest level. And Tim Tszyu is tough, strong, and dangerous, but experts believe Spence's pressure and body work could take over as the fight goes on, and if Errol gets into rhythm, Tim may struggle to keep him off, and that is where the fight can start becoming one-sided. So when people say this could be a beatdown, they mean Spence might remind everyone why he was once one of the most feared fighters in boxing.
I mean, I don't know what Tszyu has to do, and I don't care what Tszyu has to do, because I'm with Spence. So.
I know.
But I think for Errol, Errol just had to be Errol, You got to get back to what got him to where he's supposed to be, Errol,
Terence Crawford gave his take on Errol Spence versus Tim Tszyu, and he leaned toward Errol winning the fight, and that matters because Crawford knows Spence better than almost anyone, since he has already shared the ring with him, studied his style, felt his pressure, and seen what kind of fighter Errol is up close. So when Crawford says he thinks Spence can beat Tim, it is not just a random prediction, because it comes from real experience, and Crawford understands that people are questioning Errol after their fight, but he also knows one loss does not erase the things Spence does well, like the pressure, the body attack, the strength, and the way he can break fighters down, which are still dangerous if Errol comes back healthy and focused, and he knows you are going to be over there.
I know you're gonna be over there. Yeah,
I'm gonna be supporting Spence, rooting him on. I just like to support, fighters in it.
Andre Ward and Roy understand what championship-level pressure looks like, and they know Spence is coming back with questions around him, but they also know what made him dangerous before the Crawford loss, because the bodywork, the pressure, the strength, the discipline, and the way he breaks fighters down over rounds are all still serious weapons if Errol comes in sharp. And Tim Tszyu is tough, active, and confident, but Ward and Roy seem to believe Spence has the better overall style to control him, and if Errol gets into rhythm, keeps pushing forward, and starts touching the body early, Tim could have a hard time keeping him off. So according to Ward and Roy, this is not the fight where people should count Errol out, because they believe Spence can come back and remind everyone why he was once one of the most feared fighters in boxing.
I've been the greatest. You see some wear and tear. You see the punishment starting to add up in his career. And this is a strategic fight for Errol. Errol seeing that and saying, okay, well, he's taking some damage. And then I had my last fight and I've been off. Before I get into the interview, I know you spent some time with Errol and had a chance to talk to him and been around him as he was trying to figure out what he was going to do next, and if he was going to come back to the sport of boxing. He's back July 25th against Tim Tszyu. What are your initial thoughts when you see him fighting again, and when you see him fighting a guy like the likes of Tim Tszyu?
shout out to him for taking a fight of this magnitude right away after being off for 3 years. Tim has slipped a little bit. Tim has had some unfortunate situations as well, who's been active, not been at the top, not having the best outcomes, but he's been highly active and he's highly dangerous. So that's a great thing, and I'm so glad that you're getting back in the game, because that just always adds.
Sean Porter, alongside Anthony Brenna, Sean Ziddle, and Ryan Haya, broke down Errol Spence's comeback against Tim Tszyu, and in their view, it is hard to keep Spence off when he is in rhythm, so they are not looking at Errol like just another fighter coming off a loss, because they understand that if Spence is healthy, sharp, and locked in, he still has the style to make this fight very difficult for Tim.
fight, because in this fight he still would put some, you know, take something off the shots and then boom, finish with a sharp shot to the body, a real sharp shot to the body, or a real heavy left hook, nice uppercut here and there.
But they all
Spence has been out and he took a serious loss to Crawford, and now he is coming back against a strong, active fighter who will not give him time to ease into the fight, because Tim Tszyu is not a soft comeback opponent, since he is tough, physical, and confident enough to test Spence right away, and that is what made their breakdown interesting, because they were not just hyping Errol because of his name, they were looking at the real comeback question about whether, if Spence still has his engine, timing and body attack, he can dominate, but if the layoff and Crawford loss changed him. Tszyu is the type of fighter who can expose it fast, and from what I have seen from each of their last fights, Spence 3 years ago against Terence, and again it is against Terence Crawford.
Last fight, Spence 3 years ago against Terence, and again it's against Terence Crawford. He'll make you not look good. He'll make you not quite look like what you are. But I still think Tszyu is a little sharper punch for punch. The sharp punches he would put together off his combinations, they still look sharper than Errol. But the interesting thing is, Errol Spence, I think, is bigger than him. Even though he's never officially fought at 154, I think Errol's a bigger man than him once he gets up to 54. And the main problem for Tim Tszyu against Errol is going to be that jab. What does he do against that busy, constant jab?
Boots Ennis believes Spence can beat Tim Tszyu if he comes back healthy and focused, because Tim is strong, active, and dangerous, but Spence has been in bigger moments and understands how to break a fighter down over rounds, and if Errol gets his rhythm, starts touching the body, and pushes Tim backward, Boots thinks the fight can slowly become Spence's kind of fight.
Bozy thinks the fight can slowly become Spence's kind of fight.
I think that's going to be a good fight, man. Everybody just sleeping on my man Spence, man. I think Spence going to do what he's supposed to do, man. I think, and then he fighting a guy that can really fight. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, like, you know, he's a good boxer, nothing, but he comes to fight. You know what I mean? So this is going to be a good test for Spence, I think. And I think Spence going to do well.
Now he's with a new trainer. He left there, and now he's with Ronnie too.
Ronnie, he was one of the best.
When Shane Mosley spoke about Errol Spence, his respect came from understanding how hard Spence's style is to deal with when he is right, because Mosley knows boxing is not only about speed or one-punch power, since sometimes it is about pressure, strength, body work, and making the other fighter uncomfortable every round, and that is where Spence has always been dangerous, because he does not just chase opponents around the ring, he slowly takes space away, touches the body, keeps the pace heavy, and forces fighters to work even when they want to break.
I'm saying, how well, like, are you damaging your body? I don't know. We will see when he fights. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, people are excited for it, but in the same time, a lot of people say that Errol Spence is in a different league than a Tim Tszyu. But Tim Tszyu, I mean,
Tim Tszyu can fight, and Tim Tszyu's in a good league too. He ain't in a bad league. Tim Tszyu can fight.
There you go.
But I think that what they're trying to do is maybe if they can beat Tim Tszyu, they're gonna go after what's the tall kid's name again? Bandura. Yeah.
The question is whether that same engine pressure and hunger are still there, because if they are, Tim Tszyu is walking into a much harder fight than people think. And I mean, what do you think about it?
Is he all the way ready? I mean,
looking good, strong. He's working with Rodney Shields right now.
Okay, but is he really? He's strong, he hit the bag and stuff. But what about receiving?
The receipts, yeah, I don't know.
What about the receipts? How's his body gonna take the receipts? And we see how good look getting hit. I mean, hitting. What about getting hit back?
Yep, this ain't a bodybuilding show.
I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Some people really believe in Spence in this fight. I mean, actually, Robert Garcia is kind of insinuating similar things that you're saying. You know, is he really the Errol Spence we know?
Right.
According to Boxing Ego, people are being
too quick to judge Errol based on the Crawford loss, because that was a bad night, but it does not automatically mean Spence is finished, and if Errol comes back healthy, focused, and sharp, he still has the kind of pressure, body work, strength, and experience that can give Tim serious problems, and that is why Boxing Ego leans towards Spence having the tools to control the fight, because Tim is tough and active, but he can be hit, and if Spence starts touching the body early, pushing him back and forcing him to fight at Errol's pace, the fight can slowly turn one-sided.
I heard Errol Spence doesn't drink anymore, which is also a plus. he settled that down, and looks like the weight melted off him. He looks very lean, very focused, as he should be, because really it's a crossroads fight for him and Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu has taken some losses, been stopped by Fundora, by Murtazaile.
Meanwhile, Andre Ward spoke about Errol Spence, and his tone showed real respect for what Spence has already proven in boxing, because Spence was one of the most consistent champions of his era, and he did not build his name with shortcuts. Since he beat top fighters, unified belts, kept showing up in big fights, and earned respect through pressure, discipline, and toughness. And that is why Andre's praise matters, because he understands how hard it is to fight at that level for years and keep winning. And Spence was never just a puncher or just a pressure fighter, because he had a system, and he broke fighters down, attacked the body, controlled the pace, and made opponents fight harder than they wanted to.
And became a better family man and spent more time with his kids, allowed his body to heal, his mind to heal, and he started making some tough decisions about, do I want to come back or not come back? You don't wait 3 years to start making excuses, right? And I'm seeing these YouTubers now, right? And I don't know what to call y'all. Y'all not media. To me, y'all are, and not all of y'all, because there's some guys that are YouTubers that are building a platform, Roy, and they trying to just, get some motion and just build what they do, and they doing a great job. And I don't have no names off the top of my head, but I've seen guys and I'm like, man,
Then Mikey Garcia spoke about Errol Spence, and his words carry weight because he has actually been in the ring with him, and Mikey knows firsthand that Spence is not easy to deal with when he is sharp, because he felt the pressure, the strength, the body work, and the way Errol keeps forcing you to fight every second. And Spence does not always look flashy, but he makes the fight feel heavy, and he stays disciplined, keeps coming forward, and slowly takes away your space until you are fighting his fight. So for Mikey, the Tim Tszyu fight comes down to what version of Spence shows up, because if Errol still has that timing, pressure, and physical strength, then Tim is going to feel the difference very quickly.
That's a good fight for him to come back, because Tim Tszyu is also not at his prime anymore. He's been hurt, he's been knocked out. So that's actually a pretty good matchup for a return. It's also a good matchup for Tim. If he beats Errol Spence, big name, he gets another shot at something bigger. So that's a good matchup for both, actually. But he's going to Australia, so that's a little iffy there.
No, plus when you travel that far, it takes a long time to adjust to the weather, the food, the time. Yeah, that could be
Then Bernie the boxer gave his take on why so many people are still standing with Errol Spence going into the Tim Tszyu fight, and Bernie's point was that people should not judge Spence only from the Crawford performance, because to him that fight had too many things around it, since Errol made bad choices, stayed away too long, dealt with weight issues, and walked into a fight where everything looked wrong from the start. So Bernie does not see that night as the full version of Spence, and that is why he still believes Errol can come back strong, because the pressure, body, attack, toughness, experience, and championship mindset are still part of who Spence is if he is healthy and focused. And against Tim Tszyu, Bernie sees a chance for Errol to remind people that one bad night does not erase a whole career, and Tim is dangerous, but Bernie believes Spence still has enough left to prove that people counted him.
It's a good little fight for him. Man been out 3 years. Tim Tszyu been active. Former world champion. He ain't going to get nobody we don't know. I can't take nothing. I can't do nothing but salute him, take my hat off for him, and see how he go to work. I think he gonna be fine. He look like he's in good shape. He ain't look all out of shape. He look like, he look good. He look mentally all there. And I mean, shit, them little 3 years, like I said, I told him as soon as it happened, I said, okay, he had other stuff going on. Other stuff going on. That was a 5-year accumulation. A lot of stuff he did going through the rigmaroles with Bud, trying to figure out if they was gonna fight and building up his reputation and all this stuff. That was a lot.
While most people in boxing are still with Errol,
Robert does not look at Spence like a finished fighter, because he looks at him like a great fighter who may have hurt himself with the wrong decisions, and that is why Robert still gives Errol respect, because if Spence comes back healthier, sharper, and better prepared, he still has pressure, bodywork experience, and championship toughness. And Tim Tszyu is dangerous, but Robert knows Errol has been at a higher level before, and he asks, is it true you said? Yesterday I read it all over the internet that Errol Spence has nothing left, that he cannot beat Tim Tszyu.
Has nothing left? That he can't beat Tim Tszyu?
Yeah, if they want to switch it like that, I didn't say he can't beat Tim Tszyu.
That's what they said in the headline.
Yeah, of course, that's what the headline's gonna do to
to make it look so people could tune into it. Yeah. No. Errol Spence was a bad, pound for pound, one of the best fighters, but made wrong choices. Drank too much, car accidents. I don't know. I don't know what else. I don't know. I never heard anything. So a lot of times drugs get involved and shit like that. I'm not saying that's the case, but I know alcohol. What? He even admitted eye accidents. When he fought Crawford, you could tell that was not the Errol Spence we were used to seeing. And what was that? 4 years ago? 3 years ago? And he didn't look very good at all. He didn't look good at all.
Then Keith Thurman gave his view on Errol Spence versus Tim Tszyu, and his angle is different because he already knows what it feels like to be linked to Tim, and Keith understands that Tszyu is not a soft opponent since Tim is strong, confident, heavy-handed, and he brings a type of pressure that can make a fighter uncomfortable if they are not sharp. So Thurman is not looking at this like Spence is walking into an easy comeback fight, but Keith also knows what Errol Spence represents when he is.
Spence has the advantage of pedigree, right? He's been at another level. He's achieved more, even though it's at 147. I just feel like he's really done more, been in the ring with more world-class fighters, and had some victories against solid world-class fighters where Tim Tszyu has not been as victorious when the opposition really hits that A class, you know? So that's the way I break down the fight. I say Tim Tszyu staying in motion benefits him, but the pedigree and being an Olympic boxer, just different overall.
Listen, 2 and 2 makes 4, right? Use your common sense. That Tim is a PBC guy in the States. These guys are PBC guys. You look for the correct possible matchup at this stage in their careers. It starts to make sense, So, you don't
say it.
How do I see it? I don't know. I mean, Spence hasn't fought in decades, feels like, even Charlo. So I don't know. How do you know what's left out of those guys mentally, physically? You don't know, Obviously with Tim, there's a lot of question marks. He's just come back with a win, but at least Tim is trying to stay busy and active. With those guys, it's hard to say. You haven't seen them. You don't know how their training's going, if their training is even going, and how they are mentally and physically at this point in their life and their careers.
Make sure to check out our other videos on the screen.
Then Paulie Malignaggi gave his view on Errol Spence versus Tim Tszyu, and his breakdown was more technical than emotional because Paulie looked at Spence as the fighter with the better boxing foundation if he is still physically right, since Errol does not waste a lot of movement and he cuts the ring, works under pressure, attacks the body, and forces opponents to fight at a pace they do not always want, and that is the kind of style that can give Tim problems if Spence gets into rhythm early. But Paulie also understands why this is not a simple pick, because Tim Tszyu is strong, active, and dangerous when he is allowed to come forward, and he is not going to stand there and let Spence work without answering back, since he will try to test Errol's timing, body, and confidence after the Crawford loss. So Paulie's point is that this fight depends on what version of Spence shows up.